Idaho Drinkerinos. It is another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. Today, we have Dave Crick on from Bittercreek, from Diablo, from Red Feather, from Woodland Empire. His credits are growing and growing. He's an amazing dude. He was really important for the history and for the present of Idaho beer and wine and spirits. And he's on our show today. He's great. You're going to love him. I've seen the episode. I don't like to brag, but it's a pretty good one. So let's buckle up. Let's get right to Dave. Let's not waste any more time. We have lots of other stuff to get to, but mostly just Dave. And then we'll have a little community calendar at the end. But for now, enjoy Dave Crick on the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. All right, it's time for the Warren Reserve cocktail of the week. And this week, our cocktail is a huckleberry lemonade. You know, with booze in it. So we're going to start off with our shaker. And we're going to go ahead and add our bitters to it, which we're going to use the Warren Reserve lavender bitters for this one. Just 2 shakes. You don't want to overdo it with lavender, that's for sure. 2 go in there. And then we're going to do our huckleberry syrup. This stuff is the bomb. You're going to love this stuff. You can get it online, warrenreserve.com. Use my promo code IdahoBooze25. You get 15% off over $40 spent. So use that. We're going to do 1 ounce of this huckleberry syrup. Yeah, goes right in there. And then we're going to do, now for something like this, we're going to do lemon juice. So I do have my lemon all ready to go, but I remembered that my daughter Lily's boyfriend Colby's parents gave me this bottle of limoncello that they made themselves. So thank you very much, Colby's parents. This is really good stuff. It's not super strong, so we're going to go ahead and use 1.5 ounces of it. And I guess I could have just used the other side of the jigger. That's what happens sometimes when you're doing the Warren Reserve cocktail of the week. Sometimes you don't do it the best way. Anyway, so for a drink like this, huckleberry lemonade, kind of strong huckleberry lemonade, whatever you want to call it, you want to use a really good vodka, something premium. You want to use the best vodka you can possibly get a hold of. I'm just kidding. Vodka's stupid. We'll just use the cheapest thing I got here, which is the Costco vodka. Gotta love that. It's just so silly when I see people spend money on vodka. It's insane. It all tastes the same. It's only there for octane. You don't need to worry about it. We're going to do 2 ounces of vodka. This is a good outside drink for after yard work or whatever. So 2 ounces of vodka. Of the highest vodka that you can find around the house. This is the best vodka that I can find around my house, just so everybody understands what my vodka situation is. So we're going to go ahead and throw some ice in the shaker. Cap that bad boy off, and then we're going to shake until it's cold. Shake what your mama gave you, baby. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake that cocktail. Oh my goodness. So where it's like so cold you can't even touch it. That's where you want to be. Alright, now we're going to be fancy. Got my glass, got some ice. I'm going to throw some ice in there for the cocktail. But then also I got some berries here, some frozen berries. And these are going to look really nice in there when you get that drink poured in there. It's going to look good. A little more ice. Alright, and we're going to pour this into our glass. Yummy, yummy, yummy. Look at that. See how cool that looks with the little berries in there? That's a crowd pleaser for sure. Give it a little sip. Oh yeah. This is one that you are going to want to take outside for sure. The huckleberry in there is very subtle, but really tasty. The vodka, you cannot taste at all, which is perfect. And the limoncello works really nicely with this drink. But, you know, use regular lemons if you have them as well. And it just looks pretty. It looks refreshing. It just looks like a nice drink. So I'm really excited about this this drink. This is our Warren Reserve cocktail of the week. And if you want to get the lavender bitters, which also work nicely in this drink, you can taste it just a little bit. 2 shakes will do you with the lavender bitters. So if you want to get the lavender bitters or any other bitters or syrups from Warren Reserve, go to warrenreserve.com and use my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. You're going to get 15% off when you spend $40 or more with Warren Reserve. The Idaho Booze Podcast is brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. With bitters and cocktail syrups made right here in the Gem State, you would expect a little dash of home, right? With Emmett Cherry Bitters, you get just that. Each dash of Emmett Cherry Bitters tastes just like the real thing because it is made from real Emmett cherries. Add a couple dashes to an old-fashioned, vodka martini, or Manhattan to give your cocktail the authentic taste of the Gem State. Get Emmett Cherry Bitters at warrenreserve.com, and don't forget to use my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout to get 15% off any order over $40. That's IdahoBooze25 at checkout. Give your cocktails a taste of Idaho with Warren Reserve Bitters at warrenreserve.com. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm Steve Kuntz here with Dave Crick from Bittercreek. Dave, how are we doing today?
Just great, Steve. How are you doing?
Oh, fine as always. I mean, not as good as you. You're sitting on top of your little 8th Street empire there. You've got all the lovely beer and cocktails and tacos and everything you could ever dream of down there. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know about that, but you know, we got it. We have a big restaurant. Yes.
Big restaurant. That's true. And you guys, so basically, Dave, just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you kind of do.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. What do I do? Well, we've got 3 restaurants in downtown Boise. It's really one big restaurant. We have, Diablo and Sons, Red Feather Lounge, and Bittercreek Alehouse, of course. They really, for us, it's one business. It's just got 3 expressions of itself.
It's like a hydra.
Yeah. It's, if anybody that's ever been inside the building knows, we share all of our prep facilities, and the beer is kind of all married together, and it works together. But the staffs are focused on their own brands and what they do. And then we have, we've got our little lab brewery, we call it. We've got a brewery in Bittercreek. So technically Bittercreek is a brew pub. Oh. And then we've got the other brewery, Woodland Empire. So those are the things that we have as for-profit businesses. And then I work a bunch in the nonprofit world as well.
Nice. And so we'll get to some of that nonprofit stuff later because it's really exciting, and I'm really excited to talk about it. I like what you're doing there. But let's stick to for-profit for right now if we can. So you are the founder, CEO, owner, operator of Bittercreek Alehouse, which may or may not be the most important craft beer establishment in the state of Idaho. I think that's fair to say. Go ahead and tell us kind of how you started it and how it came to sort of be.
Well, it was pretty simple. I think, for me, my older brother was, when he graduated from college, goes back quite a ways, back to the mid 80s. He opened a place in Seattle called the Red Door Alehouse. And at the time, the Red Door Alehouse was, it was new. They had 22 craft beers on tap, and they were the first ones in Seattle to have done that. And I, spent time with him up there when I was in college, helping out in the kitchen, just kind of, seeing what it was like to work in one of these machines. His was, him and his partners were highly successful. They were packed full every night. And they drew the likes of the Red Hook folks and the Widmer folks. And, through those relationships, I got to meet a number of those people and just fell in love with the craft beer scene. And so I kept begging my brother. I was doing a corporate job after I got out of college. But I'm like, we need to do an alehouse in Boise. And finally, we were able to pull it together and build Bittercreek. And we should have opened in 95. Our sign says 95, but we opened in 96.
Man, just telling people, just giving out falsities right when you entered the door there, huh? But you were established in 95. Established in 95.
It's typical of how you open a business, right? You're like, we're opening in, the next February you actually get open. We didn't know at the time. So yeah, we opened in February of 96.
Shit, there are no tables. How do we open? Well, and since then, you guys have just been a pillar in the downtown community, and so I want to talk about. I do want to talk about everything going on, like kind of underneath Bittercreek as well. But let's stick with Bittercreek for now. What has it been like to see craft beer sort of explode in Idaho?
We've seen it now go through this cycle a couple of times. So it's funny because before we built Bittercreek, the craft beer scene was exploding. That was what got me excited about it. I think I went through that first wave of craft beer, and I joke with people about this, but it's serious. Like, to this day, my love of beer has never waned. I think every day I have a beer. I love the beverage. I love everything about beer, and I just think it's such a great social. I call it the temperate drink. It's like it is. It is to me everything that is good about social drinking. Yeah,
it's a fantastic phrase.
And, to my friends in the liquor and wine world, no prejudice there, but beer is definitely the temperate drink. It is, and it was my love of that early on. I fell in love with it in college, and when we opened Bittercreek, that was what it was about. And I can remember people telling us that this wouldn't work. You have to have other things in here. You have to offer other things to other people. I'm like, we're offering food. We've got food and craft beer. And I think when we opened, we had 28 beer handles when we opened, including a beer engine. And nobody had a beer engine in town at that point. So yeah, it was fun. And then the beer industry, that it got overbuilt in the late 90s. And so, Bittercreek kind of weathered that. And of course we were partners with Kevin and helped build Vardonnay. And I think in Bittercreek, we decided to add liquor at that point because, craft beer was dying. I knew that it wasn't, but I didn't, because I hadn't gone through the cycle before. And so I'm like, oh gosh, everybody wants, cocktails now. And so, and then we opened up Red Feather and, started focusing on wine and cocktails even more over there. But I think my love of beer was always there. And in fact, part of the reason we opened Red Feather back in the day was because I was frustrated that we had so much focus on cocktails and wine, and the bartenders were so focused on cocktails and wine in Bittercreek. I'm like, this is a beer bar. Let's move it next door. Like,
time to get back to what we're here for. Yeah.
Back to what it was.
And with the opening of Red Feather, you sort of did usher in, though. I think you accidentally ushered in a really awesome cocktail bar and an amazing place to get cocktails. So I mean, you've kind of spearheaded both.
Well, I don't know if we did, and if we did, it was by accident. Mostly, it was like kicking it out of Bittercreek. So that we could be back to being a beer bar, letting the bartenders that were into cocktails have their way. But yeah, I think that then beer just is ridiculous. I think we could see it building. I have been going to craft beer conferences for years, and I could see it building in 2004, 2005, 2006. It just hadn't really exploded in Boise, and I think it was about the time Payette opened that it really exploded.
For sure.
In a ridiculous way. It was, it was hyper focused and it became kind of, I don't know. It's like when you love a football team that nobody likes or that plays really poorly for years. I'm a Packers fan. So I've been through this. It's fun to celebrate this team that's losing every year, even though it's frustrating, because once they do win, then everybody's a fan. And I think with beer, like once it exploded, everybody wanted to be in the beer business. Everybody wanted to open a brewery. In fact, people that probably, had no interest in beer, didn't care about it, wanted to open a brewery. And that was personally frustrating to me. I think going through that time, it was great for Bittercreek, but not necessarily good for beer. And, and now obviously we're at the tail end of that. And everybody's like, beer's dying. And I'm like, it's not dying. Beer's been around since we as humans have decided to hang out together. It's just resetting. And
since some crazy Egyptian left a bunch of barley out on his front porch,
that's right,
and got rained on.
Yeah.
So you've been through a couple of different turns of the wheel here with the craft beer scene and what you call cycle, which I think is a great way of putting it, because I feel the exact same way. Not a surprise there. And so the cycle you're talking about, this was also, so Sockeye, I think when Sockeye put out Dagger Falls, that was a big deal because it was a brewery that had normally made like ambers and stuff like that was now putting out like a big, like Josh put out this big aggressive hoppy beer, and Payette was sort of the foil to that because their Outlaw wasn't as hoppy. It wasn't as hoppy. It was it was like a kind of Sierra Nevada-y type IPA where it was a little bit more malty and not quite as aggressively hopped. So you've been seeing a lot of change in that scene, and how is just the growth and explosion of IPA really shaped kind of what we do here in Idaho?
Well, yes. I mean, I think the world of IPA is, it's like we love it and hate it. Every beer is called an IPA now. And I brewed a 4% lager that is an IPA because it's going to sell if it's an IPA. I think that literally we're brewing lagers and calling them IPAs now. Not us, but I think in the market. The IPA world has it evolved quickly. I mean, and you could see it. I think it really started with beers like Brutal Bitter from Rogue and Arrogant Bastard. I think you could see it was like a hops arms race in the 2005 to 2010 range. And Josh, you're right on, like with Sockeye, he really grabbed a hold of that with Dagger. And I think he was the first one to put out a beer that was a local beer that I think was representing what was on trend. And then Payette represented, I think, what was a new trend that was coming up, which was, more that lighter style of IPA, that more approachable style. And, some of us, I don't think of myself as an old timer, but I think I miss some of those big, brutally hopped IPAs. But it definitely has shifted more. I think there's, they would call themselves, and I find it a little frustrating. I think that the San Diego scene and the West Coast scene, bill it as the West Coast IPA, but, moving more towards a lighter malt profile and a lighter bittering profile and just letting the hops express themselves. I think that has definitely taken the day. So we've seen that movement. And then, of course, now we've got hazy IPAs, and that's all about just no hops at all at the bittering level. It's just all expression of hops in the aroma. And
and flavor,
And flavor, And so it's...
What do you think of hazy IPAs?
Oh, I love them. I mean, I think, hazy IPAs today to me remind me of, it's kind of like Pyramid Apricot Ale back in the day, or Widmer Hefeweizen. It's like, I wouldn't classify them as entry-level beers, but they are definitely consumer-friendly beers. So hazy IPAs allow everybody to be able to participate in the enjoyment of beer, and that's what it's about. Whereas I think the hops arms race, it got ridiculous at a certain point. And, humans don't normally like bitter flavors. We have to grow to like that. So you have to be conditioned to like bitter flavors. And so I think for a lot of us that watch the beer industry evolve, our palates evolved with it. But the younger generation coming in, I think they were sort of shocked by these just overly bitter beers, and they needed something new. And I think you saw that, especially as the coasts, who will claim that, they invented the beer industry. Both the coasts were late to the beer industry. I think craft beer was happening more in the heartland of the country than on the coasts, but the coasts claim fame to it at this point. The East Coast in particular, I think they just couldn't get people to drink bitter beer. And so it's not a surprise to me that I think hazy beers, the lighter hop profile, sort of evolved on the East Coast, and then the West Coast took that style as well, and then they hit the whole country. But I like hazy IPAs. I think they're great. And I mean, there's definitely really good ones, and then there's good ones, and then there's not so good ones. But in general, it's like
I think you're right. You have a good point about the heartland there. I've always said that Montana is the best craft beer. If you really want to get to know craft beer, go to Montana and just go city to city, because there's at least 1 or 2 breweries in every single little town in Montana, and they're all doing it on their own. They're not doing it with any big budgets or rice, or they're not doing rice holes. They're not doing any of that shit. They're doing like big stuff. And then when you go to the Midwest, depending on what even little city you're in there, if you're in Indianapolis or if you're in Chicago or wherever, you'll find different beers everywhere. Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin doesn't have the most breweries per capita or something like that.
Yep. No, I think, Montana's a good point. Colorado, obviously.
Well, yeah, Denver. Yeah.
And in the Illinois area, down and around Chicago, and even places as, repressed as where Three Floyds is from. What is that?
Oh, yeah. No, it's like Chicago. It's Gary, Indiana.
Yeah, Gary. Yeah,
where Michael Jackson's from.
Isn't it Munster?
Munson. Oh, yeah, Munson. Yeah, maybe they're from Munson. I thought they were from Gary. Yeah.
But, I think that is, I think, where craft beer kind of came of age. And then the coasts, wanted in on the game. And I think the San Diego beer scene, obviously there was the Northern California beer scene, and then the Southern California beer scene, and then
I think LA gets overlooked, doesn't it? Like LA has some great breweries. Every time I go to LA, I'm blown away by the breweries.
Yeah, no, but they were late to it. San Diego was the influence on LA. But anyway, yeah,
Seattle first, though, right? I mean, let's face it was Seattle
on the West Coast. Oh yeah, Seattle for sure.
Yeah, Portland. I mean, yeah, well, obviously Portland. Yeah, that's kind of fun to think about. Like, and now, so when you opened Bittercreek, you really only had access to Seattle, Portland, maybe some San Diego breweries, maybe some Denver breweries. Now it seems like we have access to all, in Boise anyway, in Idaho, we have access to breweries from all over the country. So how has that changed the way you kind of operate at Bittercreek, the way you kind of do the tap handles and everything like that?
Not a lot. It's funny because for years we always wanted these really cool breweries from other places, but it was the allocation game, right? Supply and demand, and a lot of them we just couldn't get. And I think it's for the best. It's funny because now some of them have arrived, and it's I'm like too little, too late. I'm like, yeah, I realize everybody's trying to sell beer now, so everybody wants to push beer to everywhere. But I'm like, we've from day one always cared about local beer first. Like for me, it's always been about the local beer scene, and not just the local beer scene, but for me, it's just the where the agriculture comes from, the story of the craft behind it. All of those things have really mattered to me. And so, it's like early on working with my friend Crane, who owned Fish Brewing, and his desire to produce organic beer, and trips to Wisconsin to go to Breese and see their organic malting line and sort of understand what that was about on a farming level. And it was about protecting waterways. And I was, loyal to Fish Brewing for that reason. But on the local level, it's like I can remember early days with Star Garnet and sockeye. When Kevin Mills brought me that first keg of sockeye, we were the first ones to put that on tap. That was the beer I got the most excited about. Was the beer that was the closest to home and was telling the Idaho story or the Boise story the best they could. And so I think today that's still the case. Like Bittercreek, David and I, we wrestle over it a little bit because he does the taps at Bittercreek. I do the taps at Diablo. Most people.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
The beer curation at Diablo is mine, and the beer curation at Bittercreek is David. Lucky him, they sell about 5 times as much beer as Diablo. So even though we have more taps in Diablo, it's just Bittercreek sells a lot more beer. So he gets through a lot more beer. But he runs in Bittercreek about 50% local brands. I'd like it to be more, but that we've got to be at least 50%. In Diablo, I usually keep it at about 70%. So when you go into Diablo, there is a lot of local beer on tap.
Yeah.
That makes me really, awesome. It feels really good. And so there's not a lot of room for beer, outside of your local market. And that's the way it should be. It's like, and to me, I'll extend that to, I really like what Derek's doing at Highlander, and Derek's a local guy, and now he's brewing over in Salmon, Idaho. And so I'm excited about having his beers here in Boise.
Yep.
But I see them as local, just like the Grand Teton guys and some of the stuff from Jackson. Barley Brown.
Hey, it's in the 208, right?
Yeah.
And Barley Brown we might as well grandfather them in too. I mean, Tyler, he's out here just as much as anywhere else. I got it.
Oh yeah, no. Tyler is like that's totally local beer, but it's But I think Sockeye and Mother Earth and Payette. And, I had somebody. Well, I won't even go into that, but.
So, getting back to Bittercreek, talk to me. There is this, so I know about it because I've actually been down there before. But tell everyone else about the catacombs underneath Bittercreek and what all is going on down there.
Well, in truth, hoarding is what's going on. It's a disease. Now it's just the joy of being around for longer than I anticipated I'd ever be doing this. We, have been able to collect a lot of beer over the years. And so, we have a pretty deep bottle cellar, which is fun. And I get to manage that program. I do a great job with it and a terrible job with it at the same time. I do a great job hoarding beer. I do a terrible job marketing it to our guests. And so the beer...
Yeah. It's the smallest little part of the menu, right? The little tiny corner of the menu. Ask about bottles.
I have one of our office managers now who helps me. She'll bring the bottle list to me and go, okay, you're out of these 3. Would you like to replace them with something in your pile of beer down there? I'm like, I don't know if I want to let those go yet.
I do the same thing with my personal cellar. I don't know.
Yeah.
When's Fremont going to make Dark Star again? I don't know.
Yeah. So we have a deep bottle list, and we've got a deep keg list. We cellar, on average. Well, at one point we had almost 200 kegs down there. That was too much. It might go bad on us. Yeah, that was a little out of control. I think we're back down to we hold about 120 kegs in the cellar, so that we can program those out as needed. And there's a lot of beer that I think just does really good with some time on it. And all of our cellars are all temp controlled, so we're wasting a lot of money on refrigeration for beer down in our basement.
And you have to watch your head down there whenever you're getting anything out of there, right? Everything's pretty cramped.
Yeah, it's gotten better over the years because we've done a couple of basement digs.
Really?
I feel bad because I think I inspired my neighbor Ken to dig out his basement, and of course that's been a disaster over there.
Not work out well for Ken.
I love Ken, but I warned him. I'm like, this is not easy. We dug out our basement, and I'm like, I don't think I would ever do it again. This was not a great idea, but it was.
And you have also like some of the kitchen, the main kitchens down there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff down there, right?
Yeah, we have a 4,000 square foot kitchen in the basement. I mean, our main kitchens they're separate in our restaurants, but that's our main commissary kitchen that we work out of. So yeah,
it's nice. Yeah, it's just really neat. Yeah. It's really neat down there. I think every time I went down there, I was like, "Damn, it is so cool down here." And you guys have? Do you still have the little like party room and stuff down there as well?
Mm-hmm. Yep, we've got the cellar is where it's the cellar because that's where all the cellared beer is. Mm-hmm. And it started as a wine cellar for Red Feather, and then I'm like, why are we storing all this wine down here? Get it out of here. Get beer in here. And so it's now become the beer cellar. There's still a wine cellar down there, but it is mostly a beer cellar.
Nice. And then what are some of your favorite Bittercreek, just sticking with Bittercreek again, what are some of your favorite Bittercreek moments over the last 25 years or whatever it's been?
Bittercreek moments? Oh, gosh, I don't know. I got to think about that off the top of my head. I mean, I think... we've had countless beer events, and I don't know that. Probably my favorite moments personally are moments that we have with staff. That's it's like any business. It's becomes family, and so we've had countless annual events or times with staff in the business that I think are personally the most meaningful. We've had a lot of events with farming friends, because I think over the years being in the food business and I think connected me with our agriculture friends, and so of course that's a big part of what I do on the side. And so I think events with farming friends that were that probably always involved beer, cider, or some kind of beverage with them. Those are definitely fun. Having Greg Cook from Stone Brewing do a falling off the bar and doing, what do they call that? Crowd dancing? I don't know. What do you call that?
Yeah. I don't know what you call that either.
That was a surreal moment.
I think every moment with Greg is a real moment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That is like force of nature.
He really is, yeah.
It's been nice having, I think, some of the beer celebrities, so to speak, come to Boise.
Yeah. And you have pictures, excuse me, you have pictures up all over the restaurant with that stuff. And it's neat to be able to, whenever I go there, I like to take a look at some of them. Just like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's cool. I remember that. Stuff like that. Yeah. So moving on to Red Feather. So you guys have, like you said, you kicked Red Feather out of Bittercreek so you could have like a sort of, I kind of look at Red Feather as kind of like a cocktail bar. And what's that sort of been like? What the difference between Red Feather and Bittercreek, and what has that been like to sort of have that other place as well?
Yeah, it's fun because Red Feather, I think of it as like our experimental. The problem with Bittercreek is it's so established we can't change anything. It's they take the menu. If we take something off the menu,
pizza. You took pizza off the menu.
Yeah, we're gonna get 50 bad Yelp reviews, and I'm like, it's like I can remember like the eggplant mozzarella sandwich. I still get complaints about it. I'm like, nobody bought it when we had it on the menu. Take it off, and they just have. So it's it's a legacy brand, and we in a lot of ways now are protectors of that brand and the things that we have on the menu. We work to, I think, make them more thoughtful or meaningful from where the raw materials come from. But we don't change a whole lot in Bittercreek, which is not very fun for our culinary team. It's like they want to change. So Red Feather is our experimental kitchen. And I still think of Red Feather as a beer place, but I think I'm the only one. It's
yeah, I guess. I mean, they have beer, right?
They have taps in there. They have access to all the beer at Bittercreek. And
yeah,
they're like, what should I get at Red Feather? I'm like, well, let me walk through the beer list right now and help you. But obviously I joke, but cocktails are, the spirits business is fun, and it's gone through countless revolutions over the years, and I think we wanted to give a place to honor that, and that was what Red Feather was about. It's like a culinary cocktail bar, so I think our bar in Red Feather is set up much like a kitchen, which is common today. I think when we did it wasn't. We literally have kitchen itemizers behind the bar, and prep tools like a kitchen, and that was intended to be able to do culinary level cocktails. Now I think that's like, if you're not doing that, you're probably not relevant in the restaurant world today. So
do you have a favorite cocktail, or do you have any sort of relationship with cocktails that are? I know you're a beer guy, but I'm a beer guy too, but I like a cocktail every so often. So are there any cocktails that you kind of like that you go to?
Well, I really like a Michelada. That's a good cocktail. I should say I'm a rye whiskey guy. If I'm going to drink cocktails, it's usually going to be something with rye whiskey in it, or something along that line. Having been involved in Bardenay in the early years with Kevin, it was really fun developing the gin with the gin smiths, and working on the spirits in those early days. But I realized I like beer and as my personal beverage. So while I'll indulge every now and then in a rye whiskey or a rye whiskey cocktail, most of the time I gravitate back, and I enjoy wine, and I appreciate the art of wine, and I manage our wine list for us as a restaurant, and I should be more passionate about it than I am. I love I'm friends with many, if not most, of our local winemakers, and appreciate what they do, especially if they help me get barrels for beer.
That is nice. Kevin's rye whiskey, we actually made it for him at Edge. We actually did that. We did the rye blend for him. And I'm with you. I like that. Their distiller now is a friend of mine, Ashley, and she's awesome. And I really love going over there. We used to do that all the time. Go over there when they'd make gin and just sit there and just smell everything. It's just so good.
Yeah. Well, Kevin is he's a smart guy and had, really great palate, and and knew what he was doing when he developed that. And I think that he's just done a nice job over the years. That team has done a nice job. And I mean, it's cool. It's like, we don't have haven't had anything to do with it in 2 decades, but it's fun thinking that we were, part of the beginning of that operation. So it's, fun to make spirits around.
I'd forgot about that. So we have sort of a interesting cocktail culture here in Boise and in Idaho in general, where we only have a couple real like cocktail bars. Some other bars pretend like they're cocktail bars, but they're not really. But you guys are that Red Feather. You guys actually do have really cool cocktails on the menu. Do you remember, or do you have any sort of thought about some of the best bartenders that you've had come through Red Feather?
Oh, we've had countless. I mean, probably the absolute best bartender we've ever had was Kevin Kelp. I don't know if you remember Kevin or not. Kevin's now doing freelance design over in Utah, but man, that guy was just a killer bartender, very talented. And of course, Mark Allen, who's now at Barbacoa. Mark was and is amazing. I think, and it's I mean, Barbacoa seems to have it together and know what they're doing, but I have no doubt that Mark Allen overseeing cocktails there is probably helping him. And
seems like the last couple of years, Barbacoa has really gotten it together.
Yeah, I mean, we've had some talented bartenders over the years. Sarah Lynch, who's just done great work, and Ryan, who's over at Chandler's now, and it's fun seeing all the the bartenders.
So for people that don't know, this is basically like Ryan is he's the head bartender over at Chandler's, or the general manager.
Yeah. I believe.
Yeah,
I think he oversees the bar program, I believe.
Yeah, and these are people that have basically gone out and are now like overseeing these giant restaurants and everything. It's really cool to see that happen through Red Feather. And then you've also had some amazing beer tenders come through Bittercreek as well. I mean, Jake worked there, and some other people that are like in the beer business now have been through Bittercreek, right?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's I guess the joy of being around long enough, you get to see this, and but yeah, it's great to see him kind of mature and grow up. And what I hope, is that we have an influence over him when we're here. I mean, probably the thing as much as I get excited about beer tenders and bartenders in general, I think the one that I'm the most personally satisfied with is the influence we've had over chefs over the years using local ingredients. And so seeing other restaurants out there using local ingredients and knowing that one of our chefs became their chef and now does that. And I don't know if we influence that at all, but I think it's a big part of what we do here. And usually we have to go through call it a conditioning period with a new chef to get them used to, working with local farmers. And then sometimes it grabs a hold and sometimes it doesn't. But when it does, it's really impressive to see. And then they go off and, do their own thing, and it's cool.
That is cool. And you guys have always sort of it's been a mission for as long as I know at Bittercreek anyway, to use local ingredients and to use everything that's kind of found around here. And that sort of goes into this other kind of project you're working on, which is called Fair. Can you explain that to us a little bit?
Well, Fair was a project that we'd been talking about and wanting to put together before COVID hit, but it's hard. It's like we're all busy, and the inertia to round up business owners to work on common interests. When the COVID crisis hit, of course, restaurants and breweries and farmers markets and farmers, everybody was like shut down, and so it just created a moment where it's like, all right, can we pull this together in a way that's a little more organized now? And Fair was born. I mean, Fair's mission is helping connect people through especially the food supply chain. So from the farmer to the food and beverage producers, connecting into the retail market. So it's a membership organization, but it's a nonprofit that collects members that are in that chain or in that supply chain in some way. And the reason for it is because we have a vested interest in supporting each other and helping each other. We've got a really great, state restaurant association. So I think some people think of Fair as a restaurant association, but it's not. It really is a supply chain association. And it is, I think, focused mostly on how do we help our agriculture industry be successful in direct sales to food and beverage producers, and then ultimately to retailers, independent grocers, and independent restaurants who are going to be the most likely to buy from our food and beverage producers and independent bars.
Real quick, what is FAIR actually? FAIR is an acronym. What does FAIR stand for?
FAIR stands for food, agriculture, restaurants, and other establishments. It was, at the time we were creating it, we needed a name, and it was like, well, we're like farmers and agriculture and restaurants and independent establishments. And so I think we just kind of threw it all under the FAIR acronym. And it just worked for us. And it's a metaphor for the whole thing. It's like, I think independent operators, especially, small food and beverage producers and farmers, we want a fair system that represents small players. And we didn't have a voice in the state. The big players, big business, it's not that they're hard on small business or try to push us out of business, but big business has really no interest in small business. I'll tell my chamber friends this, and they'll disagree with me, but It's absolutely true. Big business does not care about small business. They can talk a good game all day long, but they do not care about it. And when I talk about small business, I'm talking about, businesses that are in that under $5 to $10 million a year, true, independent owner operator places that are just trying to live the American dream and make a living. Especially when you get down to, small farmers who are working season to season, or small food and beverage producers who, have a dream of what they're trying to do, but it's hard. It's capital intensive, and getting into markets is hard, and working into big supply chains is almost impossible. And unless we have smaller supply chains, for many of them, it's defeating. They can't get into it without a ton of capital. So developing a statewide association that really advocates for independent operators from the farm level to the food and beverage producer to the independent, restaurant and grocer level has been a game changer for us in a lot of ways. And I think the association is doing a great job.
Gas station food can be hit or miss, right? Not at Treasure Valley Chevron, TVC at Beacon Light and Highway 55, and I-84 at Gowan Road has all the snacks you need for a long road trip or just for the drive home. Jerky, candy, chips, sandwiches, cheese sticks, corn dogs. If you're craving it, TVC has it. Right now, get a free soda when you purchase a food boat at either TVC location. Want to win a box of jerky? Of course you do. Email the latest snack find at TVC to idahoboozepod@gmail.com and get a free box of beef jerky from Treasure Valley Chevron. All right, and so one place a couple of things we kind of haven't talked about yet. One is Diablo and Sons. Talk about what the original concept was for Diablo when you guys first came up with that.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo was an opportunity to, we picked up Pollo Ray, one of the partners of Pollo Ray, Hal, when they decided to close down Pollo Ray. He really wanted to keep going with it, so he's now become a partner of ours in the whole thing. Great guy, and has just been really helpful. And I think as we talked about Pollo Ray, we wanted to honor the spirit of it. So it's like, it was going to be, focused on tacos, but really it's just another, extension of Bittercreek. I kind of think of it as like Bittercreek is our hub, and then we've got Red Feather, which is our cocktail arm. And Diablo was intended to be an extension of beer with a focus on lagers, which is why we have so many deposits in there. And so it's like, it's Western outpost. It's like, to me, it was like we wanted something that felt like Boise downtown, or at least what we wanted Boise downtown to be, and a little bit mischievous. I like to think we're good people, and I just giving it a focus on tacos was like spice and heat, and we knew we wanted to have some wood fired fun in there, and so it just felt like that was a fun brand for us to create. But really, when you break it down, again, other people will define it as they want it to be. For me, it's a lager bar. Like Bittercreek is an ale house, and Diablo was a place for us to really focus on a wider band of lagers while we have a full lineup of beer and wine and cocktails in Diablo, and many people have wanted it to be a cocktail bar. Like, it's not a cocktail bar. We already have one of those. But Diablo has cocktails.
Go to Red Feather. So yeah, it did start out as a lager bar, as you said, and I remember when you guys did your soft opening, it was really cool. What's with the fancy taps you guys got back there?
Yeah, the Lucre faucets to me are really fun. I think I first saw those when I was in the Czech Republic, and it's all about just the pour and being able to. I think because lagers are delicate, being able to get that nice foamy head, and also just keeping the oxygen off the beer, so you pour from underneath the foam rather than on top of it. Is it better or worse? I don't know. They're fun. I really like them. We have the largest collection of Lucre faucets in the world. There's nobody that has that many. I think when we first ordered those directly from Lucre in the Czech Republic, they're like, "You want how many?" I'm like, 40 of them.
You learned the phrase "I'm gonna buy a boat" in Czech, didn't you, that day?
Yeah, Matt Gelsthorpe actually negotiated that deal for us. At the time, it was tough because nobody in the U.S. was carrying them. And so we actually had to get the shanks from the Czech Republic. And so today every time we have to go to change one of our faucets, we've got, these crazy, weird Czech shanks. And so only we actually just had some help from Hayden to change out a number of our shanks so that we actually had some flexibility to put different faucets on from time to time.
Nice.
But yeah.
So all the shanks were some weird threaded, different thread or something like that?
Yeah. Well, European countries, every one of them has their own standard. And according to that country, that's the best standard. Americans are no different. We have our standard. And we think of it as the best. And so, yeah. So anyway, we have these. But yeah.
Yes, but we are one giant country, and they are a bunch of little countries.
That's right.
So, I used to deal with that when I sold Belgian beer. As I would, every single, even different breweries in Belgium had different Sankey's.
Well, it's because Belgium is not one country. Belgium is a bunch of little independent countries that just somehow navigate the world together, but they are very independent within the regions of Belgium, which is cool.
So the change. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's Diablo in a nutshell. It's like a Western saloon with wood-fired cooking, and we've got a lot of lagers on tap. And
awesome. I like Diablo a lot. I'm still a Bittercreek guy when it comes down to it, but I really like what you've done with Diablo.
Okay.
And of course, anytime we're down there for brunch, we usually hit up Red Feather. I love those that Huevos Rancheros you guys have there. What do you have a favorite brunch item at Red Feather or anywhere else?
The Rancheros is definitely probably the thing that I eat the most. But
it's like a big dome of stuff you're not supposed to have.
Oh, actually, it's all
it's really good.
It's beans, it's eggs, it's corn tortillas, some ranchero sauce, and there's a little bit of cheese in it, but it's good local cheese. It's Ballard's curds.
Okay.
So, it's good healthy cheese.
Well, of course you're going to have curds if you're from Wisconsin, or if you're a Packers fan, you're going to have curds, right?
Yeah. And we got the Ballard.
So the change. Ballard's great. I love Ballard. They're so good. I did want to talk more about some of your partners at Fair as well. I know I'm pretty sure Ballard's in there. You guys also have a couple different local cattle ranchers and some local farms and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's really neat what you guys are doing with that. Just because I actually went to your festival last year or whatever. I don't know if it's called a festival, but the thing. Yep. Yeah. Field to Fork. And it was really neat to see all the.
Yeah, it's great. It's the first time we've had an expo like that where we have, independent operators. Like I'm a community board member for our farmers market. And, it just warms my heart to see the farmers market there with vendors at a expo speaking to independent restaurants and independent grocers about products that they have. And, it's like farmers markets are incubators for those small food and beverage products, those farmers. And the next stage for them is to figure out how to crack getting into a restaurant or getting into an independent grocer. And so getting them all together in this trade show was really cool. And that group has just done a great job. I can't take any credit for it. In fact, it's Carly May and Rocky Johnson and Tammy, who are the executive director over there. They've done all the work.
Well, they did a great job, at least last year when I went. Anyway, the change downtown has been crazy. It's been explosive. How would you rate everything going on down there? And is there anything you would do differently in regards to the 8th Street corridor?
Well, 8th Street, has gone through a number of renditions, and I think we're getting ready to do another one. I'm excited, working with the city. There's a plan to, I think there's been a desire over the years to close the 8th Street corridor, but it's like it was a complicated project, because if you're going to close it, then it needs to have the right structure to be able to make it work, and it needs to have a programming plan, and otherwise it just becomes kind of a dead zone. But when COVID hit, I think it was the perfect moment to shut it down and expand all the patios, which happened. But because of that, we haven't been able to use the street as an event street now for the last few years. And I think everybody agrees we want to keep it closed. The city wants to keep it closed, which is terrific. So now the next phase of it is to figure out how to restructure it so that it can be an event street again. And so I think there's a consultant that's been working on it for the city, and I suspect we'll probably see that, remodel of the street happen early next year. Most of the patios will have to pull back just a little bit to the tree zone, let the trees free from the patios, which is probably good for the trees and for, making the whole street work a little bit better. So it'll be cool. I think it's exciting, being able to get rid of the ramps and, some of the things but it's just kind of like a step progression. And it's a gathering spot, and it'd be nice to be able to use it for more things.
Yeah, and what do you see as sort of the future for not just the 8th Street, but for the downtown, for the whole downtown area? Do you like where it's kind of gone? I mean, it's been pretty crazy how much new stuff has popped up in the last decade or so. So what would you like to see? Is there anything specific that you'd like to see in downtown Boise in the future that we're not quite there yet?
Oh yeah, I mean, downtown for the longest time. I mean, I'm a downtown guy. I literally was born about 6 blocks from downtown Boise and spent my whole life here. Well, downtown has a brand new Downtown Boise Association executive director, and I think that I miss my good friend Jen Hensley, who moved back to Minnesota, but I'm excited to work with the new team at the DBA. I think that downtown's got more competition today than it's ever had. I love downtown. It's like it's such a cool place, and it's I'm a city guy, and so this is our city in the Treasure Valley and in the state of Idaho. Downtown Boise is really, truly, the one municipal city that we have. And it's like the feeling of the big buildings and, the vibrancy of it. But there's more competition. I think there's been a lot of investment in Meridian, which is terrific. There's a lot of investment in downtown Nampa and downtown Caldwell. And Eagle is exploding. And so, I think downtown for the longest time sort of benefited from having the scene have to come here. Now we got to fight for it, and it's not as easy as it was 10 years ago in downtown Boise. I think to open a restaurant and compete and be successful, and so it's and I think that downtown's going to have to work on continuing to create compelling reasons for people to want to come down here, making it easy to park, making it easy to access. Making sure that we keep it safe and clean and vibrant. So it's but I'm excited. I think that it's downtown Boise. The infrastructure is terrific, and we will definitely. Hopefully, we get through some of these construction phases that have been necessary but frustrating over the last couple of years. And we'll get to a point where it's like, it's tough. And I think that's the hard part with construction, like big business, this is my point, right? They like come in and they're building their big buildings and doing their thing, and it's great because it's progress, but it's like the people who pay the price for it are the small businesses. And, there's not really a lot of, there's no recourse for a small business who suffers through that. Other than a lot of, oh gosh, I really feel bad for you. Well, it's like, that doesn't help me pay my bills. Like, how do we make this work? How do we keep it going? So I wish some of our construction projects, frankly, were more sensitive to small businesses. I'm sick of seeing, the latest building operator who's come in to build a new big building need to close the streets because they need that for staging space. I'm like, be more creative. Find staging space that doesn't require closing a street. You can do it. I know it's hard, but you know what? It's really hard to run a small business that has to exist with this construction project next to you. I don't know. So it's being more thoughtful, and but hopefully we're going to do that phase of it.
Just to sort of circle back and we'll wrap up with talking about what else? Craft beer. It's what we love. It's what we've kind of built on. So what does craft beer for you mean these days, and what does that have to, and how does that go into your recent purchase of Woodland Empire?
Well, I mean, for me, craft beer has always been, it's an agriculture product. So I think when I think of Woodland and the transition we've made with it, and the moves that we've made with it, first of all, what I like about Woodland Empire is it just reflects values to me that are really meaningful. I think I'm committed to the city's commitment to plant 100,000 trees in this community, and not just any trees, but trees in the right neighborhoods and the right types of trees, because it's all about preparing our community for climate change and the effects of climate change. And I think promoting biodiversity. And so I think Woodland Empire to me was just, it was everything I loved, everything I believed in. And so I love the brand. And I think with the beers, our focus, and it's my work with other breweries as well, is how do we get this product back to the agriculture? Like, who are the barley producers and who are the hop producers, and how do we, make products that are reflective of those producers that we care and love about. So like with Woodland, for example, we've restricted ourselves to only using raw materials from Idaho. And ideally, so it's tough because I see all these great hops and, these new IPAs coming out with really cool experimental hops. And I'm like, we don't get to do that at Woodland because we are restricted to just products from Idaho. And I'm really committed to the work of people who are trying to help farmers become salmon safe. So it's like, how do we use more of those raw materials? My friend Diane Gooding at Gooding Farms has gotten her farm salmon safe. She's the only hop producer that in Idaho that is salmon safe. So it's really fun to be able to work with her on hops and talk with her about hops. And then we've got a couple of small craft maltsters up in North Idaho and over in Montana that are working with salmon safe. And so it's fun working with those malts. And, the craft malt movement is still in its infancy, and it is difficult to navigate because it's, for a brewer, more expensive, and, you're working with something that isn't as homogenized. And so I think crafting beer with craft malt takes some patience and skill, and we're learning how to do it. And I think that's the brand that we want to create, and what I want to do is be able to help other brewers be able to navigate those same lanes. So it's fun.
That's awesome. It sounds like you've really taken the same approach that you took to Bittercreek and kind of applied it to Woodland in a way.
That's right. We're working towards that, and that's the things that we're doing. And I think trying to create beer that has meaningful connection in the community. So I'm really excited. Like right now, we're working on a couple of projects. We're doing a white ale that celebrates our wild rivers. We've got 2 wild rivers in Idaho. I got to float down with my friends at Hayden, the Middle Fork of the Salmon last year, and that was really special. And it just inspired, I think, this beer, because it's all about how do we protect these really special places that we have in Idaho. So we're partnering with the Conservation League on that one, and it's fun. We'll be introducing that one, I think, at Shade City. We're working on one that's about trees. Last year we did Big Catalpa, which is about promoting the catalpa tree, which, for me was really, really meaningful. Our sales team is like, nobody knows what a catalpa is. I'm like, well, that's the point of the beer. We're connecting people with catalpa trees and how useful they are and why we should be planting them. And we planted a bunch of catalpa trees last year. At least the Canopy Network planted a bunch of trees. The city planted a bunch of catalpa trees, and they're a great tree for here. This year, through my friends at the Canopy Network, they got me interested in ginkgo trees. So we're going to do a rice lager that celebrates the ginkgo tree, which can live as long as 4,000 years and grow really well here. and provide a great shape canopy for people. And so it's fun. These are fun beers.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that's what we're trying to do. They're a little different.
And do you have any updates on maybe oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Do you have any updates on maybe a new tap house or a new pub for Woodland?
Not right now. I kind of, I'm so busy with the various things that we're involved in. And I like that Woodland, Woodland doesn't need to be a retail place by itself, at least today. Maybe at some point somebody wants to come and help me do that. I kind of think of, because I do the taps at Diablo, I sort of make Diablo my default Woodland tap room. But it's like what I'm focused on is the beer process. And I really enjoy working with other local breweries, and I don't want to compete against the other local breweries in that sense. What we want to do is I want to be able to understand beer from the inside out. I enjoy the science of beer and the crafting of beer, because I want to figure out how to integrate more local ag into beer, and then hopefully be able to inspire other brewers to do the same. So yeah, we don't have a limit.
And how has it been for you to own a brewery? I know it's something you've always kind of wanted to do. So how is it now that you actually own a brewery? How's that going?
It's tough. It's basically a nonprofit operation. Small breweries it's a very difficult business model.
Yes.
As we know, especially in this phase of the game where it's contracting, it's a difficult business. And so, we're fortunate in that I think it's not our primary income source. So my wife would probably beg to differ, but we at least need to break even on it. But I'm hoping I get to continue in the brewery space if I can figure out how to make it break even. But yeah, it's a difficult business, especially when we're doing what we're trying to do, which is, work with craft malts. And I think what makes it really tough, and I appreciate, you need to be in packaging these days to be able to have any traction, but packaging is expensive. Tariffs now are making it more expensive. And the price point on the shelf for consumers, that is really I don't want to call it price fixing, but it's pretty tight. To be able to be successful in a place like Albertsons, you've got to be price competitive with bigger breweries that have economies of scale. And so there's just not much margin. As a small producer, I feel bad for most of our small producers, because you're really pinched between, the need to have distribution, and our distribution partners are invaluable, and they need to make money, and the retailer who has a shelf price that you have to hit, and who pays the price is the producer, which is the person doing all the work, taking all the risk. You are making very little money to get that beer on a shelf. So it's a tough business. So as a brewery owner, the business side is not that fun, but the beer side to me is what keeps me going in it, because that's the part that I love.
I can't think of a better way to describe it. That's a perfect way of describing it. Well, Dave, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. I'm going to sign off before our internet craps out again. I just want to say how much I appreciate you. I've always appreciated anytime we've been able to sit down and talk, whether that's me trying to hawk the latest dumb IPA or whatever I'm selling, or something like this. I think this is the second or third time I've had the chance to kind of interview you. So thank you so much for your time. It's always great to talk to you guys. And I didn't get a chance to tell Robert's hit too the other day. Really nice to sit down and talk with him as well. So always good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being on the Idaho Booze podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Stephen. Nice to talk to you. Hopefully we get to talk again soon.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. So
see you at Shade City.
We'll see you at Shade City. All right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And we'll be right back after this. It's not just the price of eggs that has gone up. The price of going out right now is crazy. Pint prices have never been higher, but you were smart. You went to BoiseBeerBuddies.com and picked up a Boise Beer Buddies card. You were saving up to 25% on your tab at bars, restaurants, wineries, and breweries all over the state of Idaho. Also, since you subscribe to the Boise Beer Buddies newsletter, you know when your favorite spots are having amazing events, specials, and discounts. If you haven't picked up your Boise Beer Buddies card, what are you waiting for? Go to boisebeerbuddies.com, use my promo code BOOZEPOD at checkout, and get 2-for-1 Beer Buddies cards. Be a buddy. Get your Boise Beer Buddies card today and save on your next night out all around the state of Idaho. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. Wasn't that great? Dave Crick, he is the best. Thank you so much, Dave, for coming on the show. I really appreciate everything he does for the whole state, really. I mean, that guy, the beer and everything else that he's sort of leveraged to bring into the state is why we're all able to drink such amazing beers, and I just can't thank him enough for being on the show. Thank you so much, Dave Crick. Moving on. Laughing Dog has closed. This came in a Facebook post that I saw last week, and I could not be sadder about it. I love going up there, up to the lake, and seeing those guys. I was, admittedly maybe more into it when Fred owned it. Fred got out of there, and now the new people sort of drove it into the ground after about, 6 or 7 years. So sorry to see that. Hate to see Laughing Dog go. I always loved their beer. I always loved their place up there on, I think it was on Lake Pend Oreille. Pretty sure it was up there. And really just sad to see any brewery close in the state. So pour one out for Laughing Dog. Hate to see it. Maybe I don't think so. Nah, they're done. Old Speak, though, where one brewery door closes, another one opens. Our friend Adam from Alliteration Ales has opened up his place, Old Speak. It's a brewery / tap room / bookstore. So I'm excited to go see it. I tried to get in there the other day and it was not quite open yet, but I've heard great things from the soft opening, and go check it out. It's right there on Chinden. It's literally between Burt's and Ruckus. You really can't miss it. It's right there, just right around the corner from Burt's. So check that out. That's Old Speak Book Bar. I forget what the whole name of it is, but congratulations to you, Adam, friend of the show. Good to see you doing great things. Happy to see that. And I have some notes from Ale For It. I did go to Ale For It quite a bit, actually, this last week. Had a pretty good time. There were a couple things that kind of stood out that I want to talk about, but I'm going to get to it next week because this week is already, the show's over. We got to get going here. Finally, let's get to the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar. Let's see what's going on with them. Well, it looks like something called Last Call Beverage is celebrating their 1-year anniversary. This is going to be tonight at Brownbeard's Barrel House. So that's the barrel house there across the street from where Merriweather used to be and Barbarian used to be. So go check that out. That's going to be tonight, Friday, April 4th, 4 to 9 p.m. You're going to get some $4 last call beers. Again, not sure what that means, but we'll see what that's all about. It looks like also tonight going on in Nampa, Burt's Brewing is going to do a tap takeover. These guys are on fire, Burt's Brewing. Let me tell you, they had their thing set up at Tree Fort. It was pretty amazing. Their beers were rocking. That Pure Imagination was killer. I probably had 3 or 4 of them. Really, really good. Anyway, they're going to be at the Pub and Putt, that new putt place there in Nampa, and they're going to be doing giveaways and multiple Burt's beers on tap, as you would expect from a tap takeover. That's going to start tonight at 6 o'clock. That's Friday, April 4th, 6 o'clock in Nampa, 1217 2nd Street, if you're interested. And it looks like, oh boy, Prairie Beard. This is that sort of golfing beer. It used to be done by Payette. Now Loose Screw's doing it. They're going to be doing looks like a release party, Prairie Bard and LSBC release party. This is going to be on Saturday, April 5th at 5 p.m. So if you love golf, you love beer, you love fun, well, this is for you at Loose Screw there in downtown Meridian. There's going to be you're going to be able to try the Golden Ale for the first time, and they're going to be doing a putt-putt course. Sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah. That sounds awesome. And then let's see. Heritage Social Club is doing an inflatable dive bar event on Tuesday, April 8th from 5 to 8. This is going to be with 10 Barrel, our friends over at 10 Barrel. They're going to be doing a pub beer inflatable dive bar event. Can't wait to see what that's all about. And then we have Business and Brews. This is Barbarian's thing next week, Wednesday, April 9th, at the downtown location of Barbarian. Business and Brews. This is Boise Metro Chambers first ever Business and Brews. So enjoy a free beverage, courtesy of Barbarian. Network with some chamber members and have a grand old time. And then our friends at Ruckus. Oh, they're growing up so quick, aren't they? They're going to be having their first ever tap takeover at WEPA. This is right down the street from them in Garden City. They're going to be doing a tap takeover there on Tuesday, April 29th. So that's a ways away. Plan for it now, 4 to 7 p.m. Tuesday, April 29th on WEPA's rooftop patio. I do want to check that place out. That does look pretty sweet. So that's what's going on in the Boise Beer Buddies community calendar. Go to boisebeerbuddies.com. Use my promo code BOOZEPOD and get 2-for-1 Boise Beer Buddies cards. Oh, you're going to love it. Boise Beer Buddies card is the best. You save money everywhere you go, and it's easy to use. It's easy to get. Stacy's amazing. So we want to thank Boise Beer Buddies for all they're doing for the local beer community. That's gonna do about it. That's gonna about do it. Can I talk? No. I want to thank Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Oh my God, you guys, that huckleberry lemonade thing that I made, so tasty, so good. You should try it out immediately with those lavender bitters and the huckleberry syrup from Warren Reserve. You can get that at warrenreserve.com. Use my promo code. That is Idaho Booze 25. I think that's what it is. Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. You get 15% off for the $40. If you spend $40, you get 15% off. So anything over $40, 15% off all that. You're going to love that because bitters and syrups are not cheap, and these ones shouldn't be. They're really, really good, and I think you'll really love them. So Idaho Booze 25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com. Make sure to use that promo code, people. I want to thank Treasure Valley Chevron. I want to thank Boise Beer Buddies and everybody else and all of you people out there for listening. Check us out on Spotify or on YouTube. You can see this whole video on YouTube or on Substack. I think you can check it out there as well. So for everyone out there, just want to say good day and good drinking, everyone.